Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Jay Manari, Festival Director and Founder of MiraBan UK Film Awards. Today I am with Thomas De, French actor, documentarist based in New York City, film juror of documentary category for MiraBan UK Film Awards. Hi Thomas.
Hello. Hello everyone.
Welcome. And tonight's special guest is Jonathan Fisher, the Associate Director of the nonprofit Seeing for Ourselves, which equips and trains marginalized Americans to take charge of their own public narrative. This is a special story that talks about probation, and for people that are not familiar with the term, probation is something that the law established for people to have after a period in jail. So they have a time to kind of show that they are in good terms with law, but this sometimes creates trouble and brings to mass incarceration. So we will learn more about this from John. But before we do that, let's watch together the trailer.
Look at things different. Everybody has a different point of view. My plans with photography is I'm gonna use it to help change the world in a way.
This experience was life-changing for me, and it changed the way I view things.
It made me into a better man, into the man that I wanted to be.
In my photography work, I could inspire people to go down a more positive path.
It's like a second chance.
And we're back. All right, so first thing that I want to point out, this film originally was meant to be a book, but because it was created in a way during pandemic and there was sort of a shutdown of the publishing industry, Jonathan had to immediately change the format and he went for documentary. It took inspiration from Ken Burns films. If you don't know Ken Burns, just look at the latest film that he made, the Muhammad Ali one in 2021. So he took inspiration from the way he makes documentaries, and this is his first documentary so far. But it's a great topic and he wants so much attention in general throughout festivals. So today we are also sharing with him our audience, and we want him to tell us more about In a Whole New Way. So without any further ado, I give you the word, Jonathan. Tell us something about In a Whole New Way.
Thank you everybody for tuning in. This film lives at the intersection of the arts and criminal justice. Probation in the US is actually what happens as an alternative to incarceration, whereas parole is what happens, is like an early release from jail or prison. So it operates a little bit differently than what you guys in the UK know as probation. So again, it's like an alternative, and it's meant for people who could be supervised in their community safely and will be rehabilitated among their fellows. It's actually was originally designed to be rehabilitative rather than punitive. And of course, it costs so much less on a per person basis. It costs like 20 times less than incarceration. So there are a lot of positives about this if it's conducted properly. Unfortunately, the crime wave in the end of the 20th century freaked out a lot of Americans, traumatized them, and as a result, probation became punitive almost everywhere in America. And you could be, you'll see in the film, you could be violated for a sideways glance. And only now gradually we're trying to walk it back to the original aims of the sanction, which was invented in America, actually, in Boston in 1941, and spread almost throughout the whole world. So what this film is trying to do is encourage reform of probation where it's still punitive, with the thinking that will make it viewed more widely as an effective alternative to mass incarceration, which, as you know, is what we have here in the States. I mean, we incarcerate more people than anybody else on the planet. We have more people under correctional supervision than anybody else on the planet. Not something we're proud of.
Right. Thomas, as the juror of this particular category, I definitely want to ask you what's your first question for Jonathan?
First of all, I'd like to tell him, I hear my own voice, it's weird. I like to tell him that actually he made a great job as telling this story because it's not an easy one. It seemed very easy, but actually for non-American people, this process, this idea of probation is something pretty much unheard of, and especially the importance of it. That's very much something that is not easy to understand, and seems very unfair or seems very weird for us as a European, even if I live in the US actually. So thank you very much, and congratulations, Jonathan, for making it clear. And somehow I'd like to start by saying that this project is a way to replace weapon by a camera, which is something that of course I love because I do documentary myself, and that's a way to not kill people, but on the contrary, to make them grow the way they just said in the trailer, to make them think differently. And that's very important, and that was a fantastic idea, even if it wasn't not maybe the idea of making a documentary at first. But congratulations for that. Jonathan, my first question before was, as we just said, before the pandemic, you were going to publish this book, but with the shutdown and the problems that we have, all of us met across this pandemic situation, you couldn't make it. The book couldn't be published. So I wonder how you had this idea about making a documentary, especially this way, how all of this started, and would you also have done it if the book could have been published anyway?
So yeah, I don't know if we know the answer to that, but in terms of how it was made, there was a lot of footage of interviews with the participants in this program. Those interviews were done as a resource for my writing of the book. And so when the book became infeasible, I had this footage, and I thought, these participants have such magnetic personalities. Maybe I could do something with it. And then fortunately, we had filmed, even including myself with my own cell phone, we had filmed the events in the gallery exhibits, so we had that. And then there was all kinds of other footage that in America we were legally that wasn't ours, but we were legally able to use under the doctrine of fair use. I don't know if you have that kind of a thing in Europe, but if you're repurposing the footage that's shot by somebody else, for something new, they were allowed to use it, or at least on a limited basis. So between that and then actually stock footage that we actually did license from stock houses, we had a lot of content. So even though I couldn't go down to New York and shoot new footage, I was able to just kind of stitch everything together, or with a local editor's help here in Portland, Maine, I was able to stitch everything together in a way that I hope got the point across. And we're glad we did, so it worked out. I mean, actually, we still hope to do a book, now as a companion piece to the film, because it goes into more detail. And I think, the reception of the film to date shows that there might be an interest in digging deeper in some of these areas.
What were your first expectations when you made the film? Like, were you concerned about the first public reaction, or had you already the sharing the thought with the community and you got support right away? Like, I read you had support from the New York legislators in a way, so that's quite a good point. And the film was accepted in an art museum exhibition. So in which island?
Long Island, yeah, Islip, Long Island, New York.
Long Island, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most striking thing to us, and the thing that we're most gratified about the film's reception, is that it appeals across the political spectrum. You mentioned, Jay, the New York state senators, they're Republicans, but they're linking up with the Democratic sheriff also down, in Long Island. And it's appeal to socialists, it's appeal to conservatives. It's taking advantage of the fact that criminal justice reform is one of the few things that Americans of all political stripes agree upon. I mean, for different reasons. I mean, people on the left want criminal justice reform because of a concern for justice. People on the right want criminal justice reform because it would save money. It certainly would save money. And also because, the aspect of redemption is rings a bell with people on the right. It speaks to their religious feelings. So both on the left and the right in this country, there's an enormous support for criminal justice reform, and that I think was manifested in the reaction to our film, as it is to other works of with the same theme. And that's what I think is going to help move the needle in terms of the documentary's aims, which is to reform the criminal justice system in this country.
Absolutely. What do you think, Thomas, in terms of the use of art to, in a way, show that people deserve a second chance?
Things they do deserve a second chance, and the way you have accommodated everything is lovely, because it's not a common thing. I don't want to make you blush, but this is your first this is your first film, and it's not easy to have emotion, compassion, which is very important, and make people at ease with this story, even if it's tough ones which are behind it. And you have accommodated everything. You have put together in a way that is something that you actually, my first thought was like, it's too short, which is generally this is the opposite. Okay.
Absolutely.
So yes, indeed. So I highly recommend everybody to see at MiraBan, but not only wherever they can see it, this movie, because it makes you aware of so many things that we people who have no issue with justice, we wouldn't hear otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a story that shows us like Thomas is an artist, and he loves art. Actually made a documentary about art. So to me, watching your film and thinking about him considering it, I believe that it just resonates, like rings a bell to everyone who is working in the creative industry, and seeing that people in a whole new way can rethink also this tremendous case of mass incarceration. And actually brings me to think about all the movies that I watched about, also documentary ones, that talk about the situation of how criminal justice is extremely straight in terms of heavy on people. It seems like people don't deserve a second chance, thinking just of the way the law is described and the way it threatens people. They have to act right because they are threatened to act right, but not because they believe in their change. So that's what actually made me ask, what was your feeling also just putting up a documentary? What was the reaction for the people that were on probation that you interviewed? What were they saying in terms of how did they feel about that?
Yeah, they were very happy with it. And they are very gratified by the film's reception around the world. They had no idea that their tale would resonate so much. They love the program at the probation department, which speaks to, getting back to your points, it's the redemptive power of the arts. That's what the arts are so important in getting people into a get their heads into a new space, so to speak, and leave their prior thinking behind. So it's not just our program in photography, but the New York City Probation Department has found this in music. We showed an extract of a concert which actually took place at Carnegie Hall in New York. They had poetry programs, sculpture programs, and all of these have been found by the New York City Probation Department to be extremely beneficial in rehabilitation, in moving people to really a new way of thinking. It's the arts, it's the arts. And we're very happy to be part of this universe in promoting the arts in that way.
Kind of reminds me of the way hip hop saved people that were living in the more I don't want to say a specific neighbor, because that will kind of stigmatize the neighbor, but in the past, basically, learning hip hop was a way to canalize your energy, and instead of expressing that energy, you were actually bringing out the beauty that your body could give in this case. So it's definitely when I watched the first time in a whole new way, I felt like they could be, as actually Tom said, it might be a good advertising way to promote, let's make people more aware of this, and let's hope that they advertise this concept. And
yes. And, you know, we think your festival, you know, world cinema, you know, it's great. It's we love to be part of MiraBan, and you have an emphasis on diversity. We felt this was a good home for us.
Yes, definitely. In terms of the making, I'm actually curious, like, how did it work? Like, were you also shooting yourself, or did you have like a co-producer? How did it work?
Oh no, I mean, like, it was basically stitching together, you know, available footage. As I explained earlier, I did have to appear on camera a little bit, and for that, my editor, you know, locally in Portland, Maine, you know, set up his camera in my home and, you know, shot me for 10 seconds. And then I shot myself for another 10 seconds. So, and that was it. I think, you know, this is a 31-minute, 6-second film. I think there may be 15 seconds of original footage in the whole 31 minutes and 6 seconds. Everything else was already existing, and it was, you know, trying to put it together in a way that people could follow. And, you know, it was a limitation, but maybe it worked out. I mean, if you know, if there weren't a pandemic going on and I were doing this film, yeah, there's other footage that ideally I would have liked to have had. I would have liked to follow the photographers around as they took their pictures. I would have liked, you know, more footage of the classroom, see how that happened. But, you know, I think we managed, you know, given the, you know, sometimes constraints are liberating. And in this case, we were forced to work with what we had, and I think made it resonate with some people.
So it was kind of completely unscripted, or you were like, did you had like a draft of what was originally the book meant to be, or?
I worked in iMovie, the Apple's consumer software, and just started putting clips together on the storyboard. That became the script. What I did write out was the narration. And that was actually voiced by a participant in the program, Natalie. You know, and I couldn't be with her in person, so we were working, you know, at midnight when her house in Brooklyn was quiet, and she could record in a closet on this, you know, high-end microphone, and we were working over FaceTime trying to get this done. And she had never done anything like this before, but she's so talented. Even her narration has been recognized in film festivals. So maybe this is a new career path for her. And that's of course what we're a name of the project and of the film. You know, along with everything else, along with criminal justice reform, we're hoping to promote the career prospects of the participants, whether it's in photography or storytelling in a visual way, which is so important throughout the business world. I mean, you know, being able to doing what they do, I think, has really made them much more marketable in terms of their future, you know, work life, and they recognize that, and they're very happy about that.
Right. I have a kind of a difficult question, but I still want to ask it. Do you think we can hope in the future for an American United States without death penalty?
Yeah, I think so. It's, you know, it's terrible. We're like, you know, one of 6 countries in the world that still does this. I mean, and the others that do it, we generally don't want to be associated with. So it is kind of an anomaly. I mean, you know, people have tried to explain, you know, why we're an outlier here compared to most of the world, and how this country began with, you know, cowboys and Indians, and, you know, and shooting and whatnot. You know, you could parse this any number of ways, but my thought is that people may, even in the current political climate, I think people are going to eventually take a step back from this and realize it's not a humane way to operate. It doesn't do us any good. It doesn't make people safe. It actually makes us all feel bad, you know, in some way, that this is still going on.
Right.
And we think it will end soon.
What do you think, Tomas?
No, I think it's now it's a completely new way of communicating has emerged from the internet and from the phone and the iPhone, cell phone, etc. And so it's a part of justice now. They have to deal with image, and this is also what your movie was making me think of, because it's over. The 19th century now. It's done, and with the coronavirus and all of that, I guess this is officially the beginning of the 21st century now. and so image have to be a part of justice. Even for it's already I guess in America we can consider as a proof some images, and also the cameras are allowed. It's still not the case in France, which is a shame, because we should be able to watch on a certain TV channel any kind of trials, all of them, except maybe with kids are involved and stuff like that, perhaps. But anyway, I think it's now a big component of justice, like DNA. You know, we don't even question the accuracy of DNA today. So why do we still struggle with images sometimes? But that's the way it is. And your movie made me aware of it also even more in a whole new way, actually, which is pretty much, I hope, one of the face of the 21st century. You mentioned at the beginning, Jonathan, the fact that you might go deeper, and that was one of my questions. Are you going to follow some of the protagonists that we see in the film in the next, I don't know, months, the next years?
Working on that.
I don't hear you.
Sorry, the microphone was on mute, Jonathan.
Oh, okay. Okay. We are on the verge of coming out with a book as an ebook. You know, that's a way of getting around what's happened in the publishing industry, you know, with all the supply chain problems and paper and printing and whatnot. But an ebook we can always come out with. It's not made for photography books like ours, but it can work. You know, I think that will let people become more aware of the lives of the participants. You know, we can only kind of scratch the surface a little bit in the documentary. We're able to go a little bit deeper with them in the book, and then you know, we'll always be interested in following their lives from this point forward. But we're also planning our next project, which is going to be completely different from the public housing project and completely different from the probation project. It's with a completely different population. It's going to be asking American youth to picture their climate future. And so we're going to be equipping and training people, you know, here in Maine and through our connections with other organizations, high schoolers around the country, in you know, going around their environments and trying to, you know, capture in an image what their lives are going to look like 20 years from now, given the climate situation. Completely different. And you can ask, well, if we currently help marginalized people, are they marginalized people? Well, you can argue they are. I mean, we can't be taking the next generation's lives that seriously if we're willing to saddle them with this kind of a future. So, you know, we think that participatory photography can help in this area as well.
Yes. Maybe there are marginalized minds that need to be.
Yes, exactly.
But definitely, in a whole new way, fits very well in MiraBan UK Film Awards finalist list. And I'm so happy because this is an underground story made by a filmmaker that is an independent filmmaker, first time documentary. So it brings so much, you know, on, you know, for the sake of the making of this film and the sake of joining this festival. We are honored to have you with us. So for our audience who are listening to us, do remember that this film will be streamed on our streaming platform from the 14th till the 17th of March. And if it wins, it will also be screened at the Were Cinema in London. I do recommend you to vote it if it's your favorite. We will allow you to vote for Best Film Audience Award. We'll give you further instruction on how to do that. So please do remember to stay tuned. Follow us on our page, on our group, on Facebook, and also on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Like, stay tuned for more to come. I also want to remember everyone that submissions are still open. Really, we are about to close them. So if you are interested in joining the festival, and also remember our winners get screened at the Festival Emergence in Montreal, Quebec, and their winners get screened at our festival. So you get double exposure, in a way, double recognition. So for stories like this one, definitely is highly beneficial. We do thank you so much, Jonathan, for being with us. Thank you, Thomas, for being my lovely co-host. And we'll say goodbye for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.